on the Novavax. I do personally have concerns on it. The reasons why I have concerns is in regard to like this particular study where I'm seeing, again, like the severe reactions out of this group. It was 131 participants. This was May 26, 2020. This is Novavax. And the group showed that 83 of the participants had severe adverse events, but these severe adverse events are headache, fatigue, and malaise. But malaise, I mean, that one sounds quite vague, so what was that? And then 2 participants, one in each groups A and E, had you help me with this, that's reactogenicity events, fatigue, malaise, and tenderness. And but that's expected following a vaccination and so forth. And then Group D had a severe local event, which was tenderness. And then 1 or 2 in each group had severe systemic events. The most common of these severe systemic events were joint pain and fatigue, which I get concerned about fatigue because chronic fatigue syndrome is a big deal, and there are links between chronic fatigue syndrome and an immune breakdown. And I believe it was 1978, the same year that HIV was announced, was the same year that chronic fatigue syndrome was announced and took on a name. So I don't know, and again, that's very speculative, but yeah.
Let me respond to
please.
that. So, I want to be hopeful regarding, because we put such an effort into vaccines. And on my 4 pillars of pandemic response, I taught the world that we should be doing all 4 things, and that does include vaccine development. So I don't want to discount it. I do like the idea of giving an antigen. So in the Novavax program, they went ahead with 25 mics and 5 mics, and there wasn't much difference. So they got away with a much lower antigenic exposure. It is possible that this could be kind of quickly modified to potentially handle additional strains in the future, just like the Fluvax is modified each year in some way. We know from tetanus, for instance, tetanus is one of the few vaccines where we give the antigen, the tetanus toxoid, it actually gives a stronger immunity than the tetanus infection itself. The overall vaccine efficacy rates for Novavax were 90%, and importantly, it did have these reactions, but they really tended to be localized. So when I read the final phase 3 data, I thought the local reaction in the arm for Novavax was actually worse than Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J. So the arm was worse, but the big systemic potential for neurologic, cardiac, and others is much less. We're hoping that spike protein doesn't circulate. It just gets a local reaction, and that's it. So I want to be hopeful, at least regarding one of the vaccines. Now, I can't imagine how Pfizer or Moderna or J&J or can create a booster. Because think about the booster. It was hard enough to get the body to produce the spike protein. Can you imagine tricking the body to produce the delta or the lambda or produce the epsilon? How do you build up all those mutations before you know it? The protein is going to fold in the wrong direction, or it's going to create some type of cellular problem. To create a booster is not going to be quick, and it's not going to be easy, and it'd probably be unsafe. Whereas I think probably changing the antigenic component of the protein will be different. There is a failure of antigenic vaccines, and you should know about this in Australia, and that is there was an antigen-based vaccine that was based out of an Australian university. It was tested in Australians, but it exposed too much of the HIV component of the spike protein, and sure enough, it turned everybody HIV positive who volunteered for that study. So there's been a lot of misadventure in COVID-19 vaccine development. There are some nice Australians about your age walking around HIV positive. They didn't get HIV, but their test turned positive from a botched vaccine.